this topic idea kind of coalesced last night, but it's kind of been slowly creeping up on me. Some years ago, I think probably around the 3-year mark right now, I made a video, something along the titles of the unicorn or whatnot. Like, if you're a car guy and you have car friends, there's a very good chance that you yourself or one of your car friends at one point in time has said something like along the lines of, I want to have something that nobody else has. And I worded that video pretty badly, and because of things that are going on recently right now, it brought it back to mind in a better way to explain this. And I said in that old video that it was a stupid fucking idea, and you don't really want to do that. And it is true to some extent, but again, poorly worded. So yeah, you don't really want to be first, and the chances are, even if you really wanted to be first, you may not have the know-how to be first. So in that old video, I proposed that the only way to truly be first is to buy a new car and work on that platform. Why? Because, you know, I want to do something that's never been done. Well, everything that you can think of generally has been done. And what brought this idea back is the all-wheel drive situation, right? So Hondas have pushed forward and pushed forward and pushed forward in the race world, and has taken leaps and bounds in the last decade or so. And the running joke became a couple years back that that the fucking, you know, we got bored with what we were doing front wheel drive, so now we got to come and to conquer the all wheel drive. So that became a thing. And what also brings this to mind is that one of my memories popped up, or somewhere popped up along the line of the Hub City Performance video I made, or the video I made about them. And it was 2 years ago, a little over that now, because it's been like a week or so. But 2 years ago that I made that video. And I'm like, damn, it's been 2 years already. So then it made me reevaluate, like, where have we gone in 2 years? In that video, I said a long time ago that I would sit back on the sidelines and wait and wait for it to become more affordable for people like the normies to start doing these kind of builds. And also, more importantly, all the research and development, the bugs and kinks have been put out. I recently watched somebody, or was watching a conversation go somewhere, and somebody was talking about buying a Tesla, pre-ordering a Tesla, and somebody telling them, don't order the first generation. Every first generation Tesla that goes out there always has a lot of fucking problems. Wait a couple years until they've worked out most of the kinks and then get one. And I feel strongly about that too. Now, what brings that sharply into focus, the fact is that now that I've bought the all-wheel drive Trans, which wasn't planned, it was just kind of spontaneous, and I give that props, that motivation to do that to Roger, guy who I just finished a B-Series short block for. He's going all-wheel drive, and I was like, well, fuck, let me recheck the prices of Trans. I found one locally, and I went and got one. But then I've decided, I'm hesitating a little bit too, because I have an engine I want to use, but the engine I'm using is kind of like, I don't really have a lot of faith in it to do too much, and I don't want to invest too much more into it. And I already plan on doing a high horsepower CSS block later on down the line. So I'm like, well, if I want to just get a quick turbo car out there that's K, and I don't really want to invest in the all-wheel drive situation right this second, wait for the other one, then I might just buy an EP3 Trans and just use that block I have to put on a 5-speed Trans and call it a day, and then maybe sell the car once it's done and use that to finish the all-wheel drive car. Or even steal from it to complete the all-wheel drive car. Either way, it works for me. So, and another reason why what brings us back into sharp focus is that I joined the all-wheel drive group, and just watching the conversations and watching the price of parts and whatnot go by. And what seems to be a reoccurring issue is the fucking the rear mount. The rear mount on the Trans breaking the engine block. Now, could you imagine spending like $10,000 to do a build? You know, because 9 out of 10 times, well, not 9 out of 10 times, but I'd say the majority of people doing shit like this are paying the shop to do it. So could you imagine investing in a sleeve block or a CSS block or whatever, doing a high horsepower build? Because the assumption is if you're building an all-wheel drive car, you're going for big numbers. Could you imagine investing that much money into a block and then having the rear bracket break the block in a place that can't be repaired and having to scrap that and go start over again? I can't. And the fact that it's common, it happens a lot, and you know, and they're only just now getting to the point where they're addressing it. Again, it's 2 years since I made the Hub City Performance video, and it's not been 2 years since people have been doing this. People have been doing it longer. Now, that is a huge step forward in advancement. And also, the other thing I was talking about is being normalized for more people to do it. Now there are fuck tons of companies out there, and you know, big and small, that are making their all-wheel drive setups. Now, we still haven't got to the Chinese doing it yet to make a copy, because there's still so many people just throwing shit out there. But in the last 2 years, we went from like 1 or 2 places doing it, and then versus randomly people hodgepodging shit together, to notable people across the board doing this, making a streamline. Prices still aren't cheap yet, though. This is still not a build you want to do if you're just the average guy. And even me, like, I don't really, can I weld? Yes. Do I trust my welding skills and abilities enough to mount the diff? No, I don't. And I'm not going to do that and waste money, potentially having to go back and redo it. So when the time comes for me, I'm going to have to go to the shop for at least that part. So, when you hear people say, I want to be first, no, you really don't. You really want to, unless you're, there's some guys out there who have that kind of smarts on them. And even me, like years ago when I said, like, for my first time getting introduced to 4-piston racing, I said, these are the guys I love to watch. Because, do I think I can, produce these kinds of engines? Yeah, but I can produce it by copying what I've already seen others do. Learning from the mistakes, learning from the pitfalls, and gaining my experience there. Because, it takes a lot of effort. It takes years and money, tons of money, to research and develop these things. This is not just a one-off. And most people out there saying they want to do these things, they're like, I want to be first, I want to build a rare car or whatever. You're going to fucking get into it for 6 months to a year, realize it's going to take a fuck ton more time and money than you thought, and part it out. And that's how you wind up having kids partying out shit on Facebook for stupid low, because they realize they bit off more than they can chew. So this is one thing. The message is overall is respect the pioneers, respect the guys that are out there going, doing, building these things. It's the same thing like when when anytime a new group of people come to settle a new area, lots of death involved. Lots of death involved, on both sides before things normalize and flatten out. So just appreciate what the pioneers are doing. Give props and respect to that. Watch what they're doing. Respect the game a little bit more. And if you're not somebody who can, at least competently build your own engine, just sit back and wait a little while. And there's nothing wrong with replicating something that's already been done by somebody else. Like, there's nothing wrong with, building your own 500 horsepower engine, 600 horsepower engine. Even if there's other people who have that same kind of setup in that similar car, nobody's going to take away the fact that you have done that yourself, if you can. So if you really want that unicorn, you really want something that's special to you, that's rare, build your own car. Because how many cars have you built? Nobody can build your car. You have to do it yourself. I remember back in the day when I was first starting to just do swaps and I wasn't building engines at the time, I swapped my engine over into a new chassis or whatnot and turbo setup. And the guy was like, "Did you build the car?" I was like, "Nah, I didn't build the car. I put the engine in and all that stuff, but I didn't build it." So it was a little pride smack to me. And that was back in the days when I was contemplating starting to do engine builds. And that was also part of the motivating factor. I don't want people to do work for me. Now, there are some things that I'm lazy enough now where I don't mind if somebody, even if, like I told you, the goal is to eventually get people to do swaps for me. Like, if I ever open up my own shop, I don't want to do engine swaps. I'll build engines and then somebody else swapping it for me. Maybe even my son. So there's certain things that I'm willing to, take a smack back for on my pride. I'm like, I don't care. I don't care about engine swaps. I care about engine building. So just that, guys, just understand that anytime you're trying to step into a new world, it's going to be costly. So there's nothing wrong with doing something that's cookie cutter in the meantime while you're waiting for something you want to do to normalize. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and peace.